Well, g'day everyone, how's it going? Coming at you from the studio today, and in this video I want to take you through how to get smooth playback in DaVinci Resolve. Now there's a number of factors that come into play when we're trying to get our footage to playback smoothly. Things like computer systems that we might be using, the footage that we're loading in. So I'm talking specifically about if you're using 4K or 6K footage from the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera and you're struggling to get it to playback smoothly, or you've made a proxy that's in like a ProRes format and it should be playing back smoothly on your system, and yeah, it's just not. How can you get around that? What are the things you need to change in DaVinci Resolve? So let's jump on to my screen and have a look at what we've got, and we can get going with this, and I'll get you up and running really quick. So here we are on the screen, and as you can see here, I've got a bunch of projects in my project window here. I'm just going to click on a recent one I did. It's called The Fontaine. It's a home walkthrough video, and it was shot on the Blackmagic Pocket 4K. So basically what I'm going to do is I already cleaned the render cache, so there's no actual rendered footage on this timeline right now. It's fully color graded and everything is there. Titles, text, all that stuff. It's ready to go. It's had all the audio done, but I'm actually going to mute out the audio just for the purposes of this video. So we're just purely looking at the playback functionality of this timeline. So let's play it back and see if we're getting smooth playback or not, and have a look at the state of this project. If I just click on something here and hit spacebar, we're just going to watch this playback, and we're going to see if it has any jitters or any problems playing back the footage. So at the moment, everything looks like it's playing back pretty smoothly, but we seem to have dropped a crossfade here, and now we're stuttering pretty badly on this drone footage here. We've sort of stuttered through these sections and we're not playing smoothly anymore. So this is the state of this edit as it stands currently. It's not playing back smoothly. It's going to be tough to edit. I've got a really good computer system this is connected to. There's no real reason why this is stuttering, but there is a heavy color grade, and I've got different things on the color grade as well. So this is probably one of the reasons why it's not playing back smoothly. So first step is to check on your playback in the menu system. So we head up to playback menu and we come down here to timeline proxy mode. And as I can see here, this is off. So number one is try half resolution or a quarter resolution. So I've just set that to half resolution. I'm going to go back to that point that we started at before and hit play again. Now I'm playing back with the timeline in half resolution. So I'm going to see if it can process this for me and play it back smoothly. We're going to wait it out. It seemed to do okay there, but now it looks like it just had a little stutter there. But certainly this is playing back much smoother. Another little stutter there. When the titles come up, it seems to stutter a little bit. And some of these more heavily rendered pieces of footage here, like this one, are stopping altogether. So we're still not there with that change. So we're going to reset again back to that point and go up again to playback settings, and we're going to change it to a quarter resolution, and we're going to go through and play this footage again. So here we are playing again, and we know that it hit that point where it kind of started to jitter as well. And we're going to see if we play through smoothly now. It seems to have played this part smoothly. It seems to be doing all right now, and it's sort of figuring it out. Now we're coming up to a few clips that I know are quite heavily graded. Again, it's stopped on those clips. So this is something that can get you editing, and number one is just change that playback resolution, the timeline proxy resolution, and DaVinci does a really good job of processing that behind the scenes and playing you the reduced resolution. But me personally, I like to see the resolution played in full. So step number two is this actual project is in a 4K timeline. I have a 4K timeline set. I know it's all 4K footage that's come into this timeline, but actually what I can do is I can trick DaVinci in a way, and I can have this as a 1080p or 1920 by 1080 full HD timeline. So I'm going to do that. Number two, change the timeline resolution. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to playback here. I'm going to take all the timeline proxy mode to off, Then I'm going to jump across to File and the project settings, and I'm going to change this setting to from 3840 2160 Ultra HD. I'm going to change it to 1920 by 1080. So that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to change that setting, hit save. Now, what's cool about DaVinci is it still knows that I want to have the footage scaled in my timeline. So it doesn't actually change anything physically about my timeline. So let's see, no other changes, just changing that timeline resolution. Let's go back and see if this is going to play back for us. So again, now we're looking now at the 4K footage, but it's crammed down into a 1920 by 1080 timeline. And it seems to be playing back pretty well. Okay, now we're hitting some jitters again there, but not as bad as the first time we ran this. So it's doing all right. It's playing back the footage fairly reasonably well. So this is something I could definitely use. But now we're hitting these clips that are heavily graded and we're having issues again. So then I'd go through again the process of going half resolution and quarter resolution, and that might solve my problems in this situation here. So that's a really good thing. Now, when I would export this, I would want to go back to File, back to the project settings, and change it back to the 4K timeline that I had, the Ultra HD timeline. So I'd want to do that before I export, because I don't really want to export a 1920p timeline and upscale it on export. I want to export the 4K to 4K. So that's a caveat there. You have to go back and change this. But for editing, you can get all your editing done really easily with that change, and it's not going to be as jumpy as before. So let's change that back to our 4K timeline. Let's say we want to see it full resolution in a 4K timeline. So what are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? Well, one of the other functions that Resolve has is it can generate proxy media, or like a optimized media behind the scenes without you really worrying about it. It's called a Fusion Memory Cache. So number 3 is set Fusion Memory Cache to on. And so basically we want to go down here and say Fusion Memory Cache. We want to turn that to on. Now we can have that as auto, and then what that will do is DaVinci Resolve will decide which clips aren't playing back smoothly, and it will actually create the Fusion memory, or it'll render those sections. So I've just turned it to on, and everything else is the same as before when we started this. So let's see what it can do in real time, and then we'll make some tweaks to this Fusion memory cache as we go. So hitting play now and watching this play back in real time as we did at the start to see if this is going to handle our playback better. And it looks like it's doing a similar thing to what happened in the beginning. So it hasn't built up any caching or anything like that yet. So that's not really working out for us. So what I do, go back, reset again, and I'm going to go up to Playback, Fusion Memory Cache, and turn that on to auto. And what that's going to do is DaVinci Resolve is then going to figure out, okay, what do I need to render in order to playback smoothly? So as soon as I drop frames in my playback here, it's going to decide, okay, I want to render this out for the next time that this clip plays back. At least I think that's what's happening with Fusion Memory Cache. So let's play it back now and see what happens. If we're going to drop frames here, you'll see up the top, this is going to drop. Seems to be playing back really well now. And it just dropped a frame there. I saw it drop down to 23, but it's back to 25 frames per second here. Seems to be playing this smoothly. Again, dropping frames, not showing me that it's dropping frames, but it's certainly jittering there. So this hasn't really solved our problem, but it may solve yours on your end. There might be another step we need to make here. We might need to turn the render cache on. So Fusion, we've now got Fusion Memory Cache is on auto, but let's turn the render cache to on, and we can do smart or user. Now smart is, again, that's working with the Fusion Memory Cache on or to auto. So now we're going to have a smart render where this is going to render out as we go. And you can see this produces a red line across the top here. Now the red line is, so currently you can see this red line here. So it is actually already rendering this out. So point number 4, this one is turn your render cache to smart render cache. And so what we're doing now is we're actually rendering the timeline behind the scenes before we even hit play. And it's sort of chewing through this as we go. So, you know, if you go away and have a cup of tea and a coffee, then maybe this will be rendered out already before you get back to the computer. So let's just play this back and see how we go with this. So I've just hit playback now. It's taken a little bit for us to get into it because what's happening right now is there's two things at play. The computer is actually rendering the timeline as well as trying to play back the timeline. So let's just jump back to our initial clip and play this back. So we're having trouble because the computer's doing two things at once. So whilst this is now caught up, it looks like it's caught up and it seems to be playing back smoothly now. There was like a jitter in the beginning because it is processing two different things at once. But essentially what this is going to do is, see, as we're playing, it's kind of rendering out blue here as we're playing the timeline. So over a few plays through the timeline, and maybe like 10 or 15 minutes, depending on how much footage you have in the timeline, this is actually going to render out the whole timeline. And that's a really good way that you're going to work on a rendered timeline. Then anytime you upgrade one clip or do like a correction to a clip or change a cut, it's going to re-render just that clip. So, and then it will keep all that caching files in the back end, and that will play those back. And so this is a really good way to, when you set up the timeline, as you build the timeline, if you have Fusion memory cache on and you have this here render cache set to smart, it's actually a really good way to get your timeline to play back smoothly. And I do use this as well. Now, I just realized too, I'm screen recording, and that's another reason why this isn't playing back for me, because I'm trying to figure out like, oh, normally when I edit this, I can get this to work and play back smoothly. So I'm screen recording at the same time. And so I'm gonna turn off my screen recording and I'm gonna jump back once this is all rendered out and show you the final rendered out, Fusion cache rendered out timeline to close out this video.
5 minutes later.
Okay, so I am back. Waited about 5 minutes and this is now rendered out. You can see here all blue, but I've actually got a second camera here set up to show you because I realized the screen recording was wreaking havoc on the playback here. So let's just play back now. I'll show you all the settings are still the same. So we've got use optimized media, timeline resolution or proxy mode is off, render cache is smart, and we also have the project settings. Here we've got the full resolution timeline. So everything is set up how I want it to be, and I want this to play back smoothly. And as I said, this has taken about 5 minutes to render out this timeline, so nothing major there. Let's play it back full screen and see how we go with getting DaVinci Resolve to play back smoothly. So that's looking good. A few little jitters just I think as we get going here, but this is playing back smoothly. Same with this one. All the text and titles look like they're playing back correctly. This was one of the clips we had a problem with, and that seems to be good now. And that one has finally played through smoothly. There we go. So I've got Resolve to play back smoothly. And this is going to be specific to you, what computer you have, what footage you're using, and hopefully some of those tips can help you to get your DaVinci Resolve to play back smoothly. If you've got value from this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button and the bell notifications as well, because I'll be releasing more videos just like this one to help you up your game in all things creative. Well, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.